Brazil, summer of 2014. A nation drenched in colors, music, and anticipation. The World Cup at home. The sacred tournament returning to its temple. For Brazil, football is not just sport. It is religion. It is pride. It is identity. Millions wore yellow and green, painting walls, covering windows with flags. Every street became a carnival of drums, chants, fireworks. Every eye pointed toward one dream: victory on Brazilian soil. And the question echoed from favelas to palaces. Will Brazil reclaim the crown before their own people? The weight of history pressed heavily on every shoulder. In 1950, Brazil suffered the Maracanazo, the nightmare of losing the World Cup final at home against Uruguay. A scar that never fully healed. 2014 was the chance to erase that scar. This time, the script would be different. This time, Brazil had heroes. Neymar da Silva Santos Jr., only 22, a boy wonder turned symbol of hope. Light on his feet, untouchable with the ball, smiling like a child while carrying the weight of a country. He reminded fans of Pele's power, of Garrincha's joy, of Ronaldinho's magic. For millions, he was not just a player, he was Brazil's promise. His goals in the group stage sparked hysteria. 2 against Croatia, another against Cameroon. Every celebration looked like a pledge to his people. When Neymar placed his hand on the crest and cried during the anthem, Brazil saw more than emotion. They saw destiny. And behind Neymar stood Thiago Silva, the captain, the guardian. Neymar was flair, Silva was order. Where Neymar danced, Silva commanded. Calm, composed, untouchable in defense. His presence reassured the team. He didn't need shouting. His authority was silent but absolute. He carried himself like a rock in a storm. With Silva anchoring the back line and Neymar igniting the front, Brazil felt invincible. Cities turned into stadiums, squares filled with giant screens, beaches with painted fans, bars overflowed with chants. People sold belongings for tickets. Families sacrificed savings for a chance to witness history. It wasn't just a tournament, it was a healing ritual. It was Brazil's chance to reclaim global supremacy. A carnival of belief swept through every town and favela. The quarterfinal against Colombia. A brutal, physical battle. Neymar played with fire in his eyes, carrying the team with every sprint. But then came the 88th minute. Juan Camilo Zúñiga jumped with his knee into Neymar's back. The boy wonder collapsed, screaming. The stadium fell silent. The nation froze. Minutes passed with doctors on the pitch. Tears rolled down faces in the stands. Finally, the stretcher carried him away. Diagnosis: fractured vertebra. Neymar's tournament was over. Headlines exploded. Brazil loses its son. While Brazil mourned Neymar, another blow struck. Thiago Silva, the captain, suspended for the semi-final after a needless yellow card. In 1 week, Brazil lost its heart and its spine. The 2 pillars were gone. The dressing room felt hollow. The nation whispered, "Who leads us now?" Newspapers screamed, "No heroes left! Brazil defenseless!" Psychologists call it loss aversion. When what you depend on vanishes, fear magnifies. Without Neymar, without Silva, players looked uncertain. Fans felt abandoned. A nation trembled. Brazil, once the predator, now became the prey. And the opponent waiting was Germany. Cold, efficient, ruthless. Deep down, Brazil sensed it. The storm was coming. Hours before the semi-final in Belo Horizonte, the streets still sang. But the faces told a different story. Every cheer carried a shadow. Every smile masked doubt. The players entered the tunnel. Neymar absent, Silva absent, the silence louder than the drums outside. In the locker room hung Neymar's and Silva's jerseys, untouched, symbols of absence. For Brazil, they were prayers. For Germany, they were opportunities. Again, the ghost of the Maracanazo rose. 1950, Uruguay, heartbreak. The elders whispered, "Not again, not on our soil." But history doesn't repeat, it evolves. This time, it would be harsher. Brazil had no idea that in just 90 minutes, their football soul would shatter. July 8th, 2014. Belo Horizonte, Estádio Mineirão. A stadium turned into a crucible. 60,000 fans dressed in yellow, singing, trembling, hoping. Millions more watching in bars, in squares, in homes across the nation. The players walk out. Brazil without Neymar, without Silva. Dante wearing the armband in Silva's place. The cameras catch David Luiz with tears in his eyes, hand pressed to his chest. The anthem is sung not as melody, but as a scream. Brazil does not just sing, it pleads. Kickoff. Brazil attacks with fury, pressing high, running hard. Every tackle cheered, every touch celebrated. For a brief moment, it feels as though passion alone might heal the wound. That maybe willpower could bend destiny. Oscar drives forward, Hulk sprints wide, Marcelo overlaps. They run, they fight, they chase. But beneath the energy lies chaos. Passes go astray, spaces open everywhere. Germany waits, cold, patient, silent. 11th minute, German corner. Toni Kroos raises his hand, delivers. Thomas Müller drifts free, unmarked, unnoticed. A simple movement and catastrophe. Volley, goal, 0-1. Brazil freezes. The stadium falls silent, a knife into the heart of a nation. Just one goal, but psychologically, the dam had cracked. Brazil reacts with panic. Players surge forward, reckless, unbalanced. Without Thiago Silva, no voice commands the back line. David Luiz charges forward, leaving holes behind. Marcelo drifts out of position. Dante is lost. Germany sees everything. It is blood in the water, and Germany is the shark. 23rd minute. Closer shoots, rebound, finishes. 0-2. A world record. Brazil in collapse. Cameras cut to crying children. Faces in the stands crumble like glass. Minutes later, Kroos strikes. 0-3. Seconds later, again Kroos. 0-4. These are not goals anymore. They are blows. Brazilian bodies move in slow motion, frozen, disbelieving. Then Sami Khedira scores. 0-5. 5 goals in 18 minutes. A record not of glory, but of pain. The crowd is silent. No drums, no songs, only disbelief. Millions across Brazil stare blankly at screens. Some weep, others sit motionless, unable to speak. On the pitch stand 11 bodies, but no team. Present in flesh, absent in soul. Germany plays on, cold, mechanical, merciless. Brazil is no longer opponent. Brazil is victim. David Luiz raises his arms, begging fans for forgiveness. His face hollow, desperate. Dante, meant to replace Silva, looks lost. Marcelo hangs his head. Hulk fades. On the bench, Coach Scolari sits frozen, motionless. The general without an army. In the stands, children sobbing, men hiding their faces, women clutching flags. A nation implodes. Experts would later call it a collective trauma unfolding in real time. This was not tactics failing. This was belief dying. Without Neymar, there was no spark. Without Silva, no anchor. They were exposed, naked, fragile. Germany exploited not just space, but psychology. Every goal carved deeper into Brazil's identity. Each pass carried the same message. You are weak. You are broken. Half-time, 0-5. Brazil walks off in silence. Some fans boo, others stand in stunned quiet. The camera shows faces of shame, sorrow, disbelief. In the locker room, heads drop. There are no speeches, no words, only despair. Brazil had dreamed of exorcising the ghosts of 1950. Instead, it had birthed a new trauma, far crueler. The first 45 minutes became legend, not as football, but as massacre. For Germany, efficiency. For Brazil, humiliation. The 7-1 was no longer just a match. It was the night Brazil was broken. The whistle calls them back. Brazil walks out for the second half, but the match already feels decided. 0-5 on the scoreboard, yet heavier in their hearts. The stadium is subdued. The carnival is gone. Even the drums, so central to Brazilian football culture, fall silent. The players move like shadows of themselves, heads down, legs heavy, souls broken. Still, 90 minutes must be completed. This is no longer football, it is survival of dignity. 50-minute, Germany presses once more, relentless. Mesut Özil slips a pass into space. Schürrle, the substitute, races onto it. He fires past Julio Cesar, 0-6. Another wound carved open. The cameras pan across the crowd. Disbelief, anger, tears. Children hide their faces in flags. Parents hug them, helpless. Even the German celebrations shrink. The goals are no longer joy. They are embarrassment. David Luiz stands in midfield, motionless. His curls damp with sweat and tears. He had promised before the match, "We'll play for Neymar, for Silva, for all of Brazil." Now he looks like a man who has lost his family. Dante, Silva's replacement, avoids eye contact. Every mistake magnified, every touch heavy. The defense looks less like a wall, more like broken glass. Pieces scattered, sharp but useless. Marcelo covers his face with his jersey. Hulk walks with hands on hips, silent. Fred, isolated up front, is booed by his own fans. In the stands, the grief is unbearable. Fans cry openly. Some pray, others curse. Images beam worldwide. A young boy clutching a replica trophy, sobbing. An elderly man with the flag covering his face. Brazil's pain becomes global theatre. The stadium begins to thin. Supporters walk out, unable to watch. Yet many remain, frozen. They cannot move, as if chained to the tragedy. 79th minute, Germany attacks once more. Schürrle receives the ball wide, cuts inside. One touch, two, then a thunderous shot into the roof of the net. 0-7. The scoreboard glows like a wound. Gasps echo louder than cheers. It is not victory, it is cruelty. Even German fans hesitate before clapping. They know they are witnessing not sport, but destruction. 90-minute. Oscar, one of the few still fighting, pushes forward. The German defense finally relaxes. A gap opens, Oscar runs through. He scores! 1-7. A muted celebration, almost apologetic. The crowd cheers desperately, clinging to scraps of pride. But everyone knows it changes nothing. The final score will always read the same, 1-7. A consolation goal in a sea of humiliation. The referee blows. The match is over. Germany embraces, calm, efficient, almost modest. They know they must play a final. Brazil collapses onto the grass. Some kneel, others cry openly. David Luiz weeps uncontrollably, apologizing to the fans through cameras. Julio Cesar covers his face. This is not just defeat, it is devastation. Across Brazil, the silence is deafening. Bars empty, fireworks remain unlit. Psychologists would later describe it as national mourning. The match resembled a funeral more than a football game. Streets once alive with drums and horns fall quiet. Only tears and disbelief remain. The 7-1 becomes more than a scoreline. It becomes a symbol of collective collapse. Around the world, headlines explode. Historic humiliation. The night Brazil was broken. Fans in every country replay the goals in disbelief. Commentators call it the greatest shock in football history. Social media fills with memes, jokes, sympathy. The 7-1 becomes an instant myth. But for Brazil, it is no joke. It is trauma broadcast live to billions. Post-match interviews are raw. David Luiz: "I just wanted to bring joy to my people." Julio Cesar: "Apologies, apologies." No excuses, only sorrow. A nation of 200 million left shattered. The coach, Luiz Felipe Scolari, accepts responsibility. "The worst day of my life," he admits. His words echo what every Brazilian feels. This was not a loss, it was the breaking of a dream. When the referee's whistle echoed for the last time, the Mineirao was no longer a stadium. It was a graveyard of dreams.
Players lay on the grass as if crushed by invisible weight. David Luiz bent down, hands on knees, tears streaming freely. Across the seats, fans stood frozen, yellow shirts blurred by tears. Some covered their faces with flags, others simply stared into emptiness. The scoreboard still glowed. Brazil 1-7 Germany. Not just a number, but a wound carved into history.
Inside, silence reigned. No shouts, no anger, only broken voices and muffled sobs. Some players stared at the floor, unable to meet each other's eyes. Others hid their faces in jerseys, as if shame could be erased. The coach, Luiz Felipe Scolari, sat in the corner. His shoulders slumped, his voice hollow. "This is the worst day of my life," he admitted to journalists. Words heavy as stones, falling onto the hearts of millions. Across Brazil, streets emptied. Bars once filled with drums and chants fell quiet. Fireworks meant for victory lay untouched. Flags, once waved with joy, now dragged in silence. In Rio, Sao Paulo, Salvador and beyond, fans wept openly. It was mourning, not celebration. Psychologists describe the moment as collective trauma. A nation of 200 million felt humiliated in front of the world. The global media erupted. Headlines screamed, "The night Brazil was broken! The greatest humiliation in football!" Commentators struggled to describe what they had seen. Some called it massacre, others miracle. Social media exploded. Memes, jokes, disbelief spread faster than goals that night. But for Brazil, none of it was funny. Every joke was salt in an open wound. Cameras captured unforgettable images. A boy clutching a replica trophy, sobbing. An elderly man with the flag over his face, silent. These became symbols of the defeat. Faces broadcast worldwide, embodying a nation's grief. Players too carried scars. David Luiz, once a hero, became a tragic figure. His words cut through television screens. "I just wanted to make my people happy." Instead, he became the face of their sorrow. For decades, Brazil had carried the ghost of 1950, when Uruguay stunned them in the Maracanã. That defeat had defined a generation. But now, 2014 had rewritten the script. The Mineirazo was crueler, heavier, more devastating. 1950 was heartbreak. 2014 was humiliation. Not just losing a final, losing by 7 at home on the world stage. Experts later analyzed the match as more than tactics. It was a psychological implosion. Without Neymar, the symbol of hope, the team lacked spark. Without Silva, they lacked control. When Germany struck early, belief crumbled, panic spread, discipline vanished. It was not football anymore. It was fear playing against efficiency. And fear, once unleashed, is impossible to stop. Germany played like a machine, efficient, disciplined, merciless. Each pass calculated, each attack precise. They exploited not just space, but psychology. Yet after the 4th, 5th, 6th goal, even they seemed hesitant. Celebrations grew smaller, restrained, because they knew they were dismantling not just a team, but a legend. Days turned into weeks, but the wound did not close. The 7-1 haunted conversations, headlines, and hearts. Children in the streets replayed it. Songs, once about glory, turned into satire. For players, the scars were deeper. Fred retired soon after, forever booed. David Luiz carried ridicule for years. The dream of a 6th World Cup at home became ashes. And for many, trust in the team never fully returned. Over time, the 7-1 became myth, a number whispered with dread, remembered instantly. It symbolized fragility, how even giants can fall. It reminded the world that football is not mercy, but truth. For Germany, it was glory, a step toward their 4th World Cup. For Brazil, it was shame,
carved into eternity. The day Brazil was broken, the day football showed its cruelest face. Sociologists studied the match as a cultural event. It reflected the vulnerability of national pride. In Brazil, football is more than sport. It is identity, religion, lifeblood. To lose in this way was not just sporting defeat, it was cultural collapse. The chants stopped, the carnival silenced, the dream died. Years later, Brazil sought redemption. New players, new coaches, new hopes. Yet every new tournament carried the ghost of 7-1. Commentators whispered it before every match. Fans carried it in their hearts. It became a shadow Brazil could not escape. Every loss reopened the scar. Every victory felt incomplete.
Today, the 7-1 is more than history. It is symbol, lesson, warning. It teaches that glory is fragile, that passion without balance can collapse. Brazil will rise again, as it always has, but this night will never fade. Because legends are not only built from triumph, they are carved in tragedy. July 8th, 2014 will never leave Brazil. Not the goals, not the tears, not the silence. Generations will speak of it, as parents once spoke of 1950. But this time, the pain is global. Football fans everywhere remember where they were that night. Not just Brazilians, but the world. Because it was not just Brazil that broke. It was the illusion that legends are untouchable. Now listen closely. You just witnessed the night Brazil was broken. The 7-1 humiliation that shook football forever. But football never ends. The story continues in you, in your memory, in your judgment. Tell us, was it destiny, collapse, or something darker? Drop your answer below. And if you want to be part of the next great story, subscribe to KICKSPLOSION_TV. Because the next unforgettable chapter begins soon.